Let's see. All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's stream. I am Kim, head of marketing and partnerships here at Decentraland, and it is day 2 of Decentraland Music Festival. It is our 4-day EDM event inside of Decentraland, a virtual social world. This is the 4th annual Decentraland Music Festival. It's really a way for music fans from across the globe to come together to learn what's next in the industry by listening to exclusive EDM sets from international artists and join some of the panels like this one, and honestly just have fun together in a 3D environment, because we know not everyone can travel across the world to these physical festivals. So I want to welcome everyone to today. This is our first of 3 VIP panels. To follow along with this interactive experience, you can download Decentraland at decentraland.org and meet us over by the beanbag chairs that you can see here. Dana on our team is streaming in World Live right now, which is in the middle of our festival grounds. And then otherwise, hello to everyone that is listening to us on the streams. We are live currently on YouTube, X, and LinkedIn, as well as in World. And thank you to our panelists. So today we are going to talk about beyond the algorithms, increasing discoverability through digital community. So I want to kick us off through introductions. So we have this amazing panel of experts on this topic. And so I will kick it off to you, Rahim. We have Rahim, I'm going to say this wrong now, and I just practiced. Rahim Chattaika Jr. here from Peachz. We have Shelley Van from Songbird Collective. I'm just double checking. I know we were supposed to have another person who I believe didn't make it right now. And then we have Speaight, who is here from the CEO of RealityJam. I believe Arnau was supposed to join us, but something came up. So if he joins, I will bring him in as soon as we can. But let's pass it around the horn, and you guys can do your intro. Tell us who you are, how you got into Web3, and just a little bit about your company. I'll start with you, Rahim.
I'm Rahim, CEO and co-founder at Peachz, based in Berlin and hailing from the Boston commercial capital of Malawi, Blantyre. Quick story on how I got into Web3. I think it was about 8 years ago, and I was managing some Airbnbs, which led to meeting a lot of interesting people back home in Malawi. And one guy traveled to the country, and I was like, "What's your story?" And he's like, "Oh, I came to sell some guy here Bitcoin." I was like, "Oh, interesting." Heard about that on Big Bang when I was younger, but I didn't take it too seriously. But maybe I should now. And then he sent me like $30 worth of Bitcoin at the time. So then I just read up, yeah. But the price was like I think like 2,500 or something, which is crazy.
At the time, yeah, I bet. It's a little different today.
a little bit. So yeah, and he's like, "You're a smart guy. You figure it out." And then since then,
amazing.
Working, trading, losing, making money, building projects, and now building Peachz, and we're the first curated electronic music platform based here in Berlin, and we're empowering artists through co-ownership, profit sharing, and transparency.
I love that. I want to dive into so much more of that, but let's do everyone's intros and then we will come back. All right, we have Shelley Van from Songbird Collective. Hey, Shelley.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Most of you know me from the True Band Room. Songbird Collective has partnered with True to run over 1,000 metaverse concerts in Decentraland. Woo woo. Shout out to everybody in the community and all of these amazing independent musicians from around the globe. My background is in social media influencer marketing. And so for Songbird Collective, especially during COVID lockdowns, we positioned a strategy that was more about collaboration over competition. and using collective voices versus individual voices to amplify messaging. And we brought that into the music side in Decentraland, and it's been absolutely wonderful to see that affect independent musicians in their ability to build community. And I found Decentraland in late 2020, and immediately saw the potential because, I mean, perfect panel plug. In the absence of algorithms, it's the most beautiful experience to show up and just be a person and not have to worry about, fighting your way to be heard.
Totally.
You just show up. So I saw the potential and the amazingness that this platform offers.
Awesome. Thanks, Shelley. We're so glad to have you, and we will definitely dive into how you all create all of the amazing events that you do in Decentraland. And then we're going to pass it over to Sam. Want to tell the community a little bit more about you and RealityJam?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me today, Kim. Really pleased to be here. So RealityJam was born out of a vision to, I suppose, unify artists and their fan communities more effectively through immersive live events, very similar to the live event that we're experiencing right now at Decentraland Music Festival. So we build a range of different solutions for brands and creators to activate what are truly real-time or live experiences using real-time technologies inside our really rich immersive game worlds. And we've done that for all sorts of folks across the music business, from event brands like Glastonbury Festival, which is the biggest festival in the world by media footprint, all the way to DJs like Carl Cox and Fatboy Slim and hundreds of others. And the notion of driving the connection between artists, creators, and their communities is at the very heart of the mission that we aim to achieve through the deployment of these solutions. It's about creating a deeper, more authentic emotional connection between creators and their audiences using cutting-edge tech in digital space. And Web3, I mean, that really is the glue. So providing ways for artists to, monetize those experiences, share those monetization opportunities with their communities, and create, real value, monetary value, in a way that they own, that they control, in a financial ecosystem that is built for purpose. That's a fundamental part of the product that we've built. It's a journey, one that we continue and will do for a long time.
Amazing.
Web3. I love it.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. If you just tuned in, we are in Decentraland live with an amazing panel kicking off day 3 of our festival here. So jump in, hang with Dana and the community in Worlds by the Bean Chairs, explore all the booths. Okay, so this is all about algorithms, discoverability. And this came up in a panel yesterday, but I feel like it's super relevant here today. When I was doing research about all of this, I learned that, as we all know, attention is a finite resource, and that the average person today is getting exposed to 6,000 to 10,000 ads per day. And so as we think about that and how we can increase discoverability, kind of what are you all seeing artists, labels, people in the music industry doing to grab that attention with all of this noise all around them? So I'll start with you, Shelley, and then we can kind of just have free-flowing conversation from there.
I think that, again, it is such an overwhelming time to just be human.
Yeah,
our
to say
brains
the least.
haven't had time to evolve to all of this information coming at us, but
yeah,
we are. So I think finding it's really all comes back to community, especially for independent musicians. If you can have your solid base of support and fans and the ability to connect in a very meaningful way and create shared experiences, that is more impactful than a series of ads coming at you. Especially with platforms like Decentraland, being able to create that shared experience that taps into our human experience. Like, hey, we got to build a memory together. That stays with you. That's more impactful. That attaches you to the community around a specific thing. And in this case, a musician, a piece of art, anything. So I think that that's far more important than digital ads that are just flashing you.
Yeah. I always think of them as interrupting the experience that you're trying to have. Like when I'm scrolling Instagram, I'm trying to see like my friends' babies, like what's going on,
Right.
all of that kind of stuff. And so sometimes it feels very jarring. Rahim, I saw you nodding along. Do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with that. I mean, speaking to a lot of independent musicians and artists, I mean, even if you look at other industries apart from music, it's the thing that I've been talking about a lot is an offline first and then online, because on a lot of the platforms with the new algorithms, it's very difficult now to achieve organic growth, or even if you do have spend, to get any engagement, even if you're spending money. So it's about going back kind of to the old school DIY stuff that the music industry and musicians used to do. Kind of the impromptu concerts, like 50 people, flyers on the street, just like kind of like the dimmy stuff that gets people connected and have an emotional connection with you. And then kind of take that connection as real estate and then bring it online. And then there you kind of have not organic reach, but then it's organic reach that you spent on in real life. And then you use those as then your handmaiden to push you through the algorithm. So kind of to fight the algorithm, you have to kind of take time away from it and then come back.
Sam, anything you want to add?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't quite sure whether you were addressing me or not. Slightly glitchy line there on my side. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about this all day and night. It's hugely challenging. That is what I will say, and it really echoes what Rahim said a moment ago. The challenge for particularly independent labels and artists in this space just seems to get greater every other day of the year. You know, it's always been difficult for particularly younger electronic music artists and labels who don't have the budget that, you know, the big, you know, sort of major label affiliated folks might have to kind of compete. And, you know, I think Rahim's point is a great one. It's almost kind of come full circle. You know, it's sort of like, I think back to the time when I first started getting into electronic music culture. I'm going to reveal my age here. Back in about 1990. You know, there was no internet. There was no mass distribution mechanism for marketing messaging.
Yeah.
It was all done hand to hand, organic community growth, you know, built in the real world, you know. And while I definitely think, as Rahim said, there has been kind of a full circle motion here where it's kind of gone back to the way it started at the very beginning of the growth of electronic music culture. I definitely think that kind of micro community methodology is a really good one. And I think that's probably what I see as being the most effective tool that independent artists and labels have anyway in the space today. And, you know, I mean, I'm going to call out a platform here, which is probably, you know, very far away from what you think of when you talk about, you know, sort of independent channels. But Twitch is a great example. You know, we've just begun engaging in the Twitch DJ program. And this is a really fantastic way for you know, creators to, you know, build a micro community in what is, you know, a pretty crowded digital space. But it's a platform that, you know, if you're you know, pushing, you know, really cutting edge current sounds in a specific genre, it's quite a straightforward process to develop a small community in that space that can be grown organically over time. Now, of course, if you've got other strategies like, you know, you're starting in the real world, as Rahim mentioned a moment ago, then that's going to add a whole bunch of fuel to that fire. But you know, obviously, you know, we're at a digital event right now, and Decentraland's very much, you know, Decentraland Music Festival is very much a digital product. So I guess, you know, platforms like the Twitch DJ program and the space that's available there for community building, as far as micro communities go, I really think that's probably the most effective tool that independent artists and labels have today, and that is start small. You know, it's about quality, not quantity. It's about having a small group of individuals who are passionately connected to your art, to your creativity. And I think we're moving into an age now where the consumption of digital creative content in the electronic music space is becoming a little bit more like an art gallery rather than, you know, a supermarket or a department store. You know, the resurgence of vinyl is a great example of this. You know, a successful vinyl an indie artist is like a couple of hundred copies shipped globally. You know, like 3-4 that's a successful vinyl release. That's the methodology that I think, leads into success in today's challenging space, market landscape.
Totally agree. I think we had an interesting panel yesterday with artist managers and just talking about, okay, how can they tap in, and the people that are digital native versus not. So the artists coming up in the TikTok era is very different than the artists coming up in the vinyls era, and what they're willing to adjust to, be used to, and willing to do in this space in terms of learn and creativity has been super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it starts small,
Totally.
Don't expect you're going to have a digital audience of 50,000 fans and become disappointed when that doesn't manifest in 6 months. Think, when I was a young music promoter long ago, a successful club night, really successful club night for me was a room with 200 people in it, okay, I wasn't billing, Peggy Goo and Martin Garrix.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. I don't think, I think for independent artists and labels, success needs to be measured by the quality of the connections that you have in terms of your digital audience, not quantity.
Yeah, completely agree. I think what we saw the past 2 days, even we were talking to some of the artists that we have here today, and Shelley, I'll have you tap into this because I know you helped curate today's performance here. Just having those artists come in and be able to talk to fans, like they're in the chat talking. And I was like, when else do you get to talk to an artist like San Holo or anyone that's been performing here on this stage? Like, when do you get to talk to your artist? And Daniel Allen was giving like behind the scenes talks about like, hey, when I first released this song, I actually thought it was terrible. I didn't want to release it. And like my friends made me, and it became my #1 hit, and like telling backstories, and like, that's a fan connection that is really hard to do in the traditional world. And just thinking about those community efforts and how you can build community one conversation at a time to really snowball that presence of you and how people start to explore you. I know our community is going to be talking about it being like, oh my God, I had this conversation with Daniel Allen. And then they were like, hey, where's your Spotify? Let me make sure we're listening. And then some of his work is on Coop Records site, released as NFTs. And so they were like, okay, how do I find that? And it just like kept snowballing. So Shelley, as you work to get artists onboarded into this space, you've done, what did you say, 1,000, over 1,000 plus, right? Yep. Different performances in Decentraland. Can you talk a little bit about that experience of maybe onboarding a new artist, or talking about how community plays a role in them doing something that maybe they haven't done before?
Yeah, I mean, I love the bridge from Twitch to Decentraland because
interesting. Yeah.
If you're already familiar with how to live stream, that's a benefit. There's no requirement for that. I'll help. Part of my onboarding process personally is hand holding through the entire journey, whether you're like, I've never streamed live to anything, or I'm already performing on Twitch. How do I get over here? So whatever path, I've done it all. But I love if you understand what's happening on Twitch with the live being present, talking to real humans on another side, the Decentraland experience just adds so much more. And I think for people that haven't been immersed in this, it's so difficult to do this justice. The experience of immersing.
I feel that.
Yeah, like immersing yourself. A 3D representation of your human body is so powerful. On Twitch, you don't have that. You can see a number that represents how many people are watching. But when you see a visual representation of all these bodies that are emoting and throwing money at you and talking in chat, and you see the conversation that's not just happening to you or with you on screen, but in the crowd, there's just this enormous meta element added that it's this another plane of experience. And so I mean the memories that I have over the past 3 years are too many to iterate. However, there is one that sticks out right now based on what we're discussing with the musical Doc. She's a fantastic artist from Southern California, and DJ Trax. The musical Doc was just spitting bars, ad lib, total freestyle. CJ comes in, or DJ Tracks, sorry. He goes by many names. But CJ comes in, he hears what she's doing, and he's like, oh my gosh. And she says, I just need a backing track for this. And he's like, I have one. He emails it to her in real time. She puts it on and spits the bars over this track, and like magic happened. And for all of us in the audience, we were like, I can't believe we just witnessed this. That was incredible.
Live?
Yeah, it was all happening live.
How did I miss this one?
So it was
That's insane.
Oh my gosh, we just witnessed two artists from different parts of the world collaborate in real time, totally unplanned. And, historically, I think, if you go to like Motown Records, you've got all these brilliant minds just collaborating. I think if I have anything to say, it's collaboration over competition all day long. Collaborate. The ability to share that energy and let it just amplify itself, like laws of physics, right? Energy waves attract to like energy waves, and then they amplify. Like that's what we're doing. We just can't see it yet.
Totally. Rahim, I want to let you jump in on that. I feel like there's so many things related to Peachz and how you're all working as well.
Yeah, so at first, I think I'll touch on the point of these meta experiences that we then, like, because that's something that I thought as well. I was like, oh, this is so fun being here. And yeah, it seemed like an extension of yourself. And you're like, okay, how do I interact with someone? And then you're like, oh, nice outfit. And they respond. And then you have this conversation. And then on that, what Shelley then did say about the ability to connect with the artist afterwards. Like, of course, like here, like in some of the clubs, the more intimate clubs, yes, you can speak to the DJ sometimes, the producer, after the set, have a short conversation, but never too deep. You don't want to bother them too much, or sometimes you don't have access to them at all. But then it's an interesting conversation that Shelley brought up, where it kind of levels the playing field, or like levels everyone on the same field in this sense that it's very intimate, even though it's not a true normal human experience. It's digital, but it then allows people to have a conversation with this artist because they're not now protected by security and any risk that they can't take because it's a digital experience. So from what you lose from the human experience, you then gain this connection with the artist that the fans usually wouldn't have, and also the option for collaboration in that sense. And these are also topics that we're thinking about a lot on Peachz, where when we think of promotions, where the producers have an upcoming single or a project, an album, how do they want to promote this beyond the other channels, external channels, third-party channels, and then bringing them into our platform? How do they also promote on our platform? For example, like a live stream where the fans can also engage within our platform, and it's kind of a live listening party of the album as well. So these are topics that we're also exploring on how do you immerse their fan group and kind of connect them to that release the same way we do in physical releases as well.
I love what you said there, Rahim, and I think that really speaks to kind of a bit of I'm going to be a little harsh here with my description of the industry at large, but somewhat of a failure to respond in a way to the growth of the experience economy. Back in the good old days, you sold a record. And they turned up at the shop and they pulled out their wallet, they paid for it, and they left, and that was that. That's not the way that young adults want to consume music today. It needs to be part of the story, part of an experience, and I think a lot of artists really struggle with that. Because it's tough, right? Like you don't have enough to do with, dealing with, having to get this, incredible high quality music to, stand out from the swarm of competing releases that are released every other day of the year. You've also got to have this kind of, film production narrative style vision around how you speak to your audience. Man, it's tough, but it's essential, and having some kind of story to tell around where your music comes from, how to find it, how to listen to it, experience it, listening parties, micro communities on Twitch, using the DJ program to reach other folks in that space. Yeah, really getting under the skin of the story that's behind an artist and really magnifying that and amplifying that, I think is so important, but also really tough.
And Sam, to build on that, where are you seeing like this storytelling perform best, like be successful in bringing that awareness to these new artists and their work? I know, right? I work in social media, so it's like, do one platform amazing or do 12 just okay? Would love to hear from you all in this space of like, where are you seeing your artists and fans gravitate towards?
Yeah, I mean, in the independent space, there is a real lack of dealing with this matter effectively because it's so tricky and actually expensive. That's a really hold an example up to the light. It's one that we're all very familiar with, of course. It's Fortnite. Look at the Metallica experience that they produced quite recently. I mean, I don't know how many millions they spent on it. What an incredible, remarkable story, and weaving that whole story into the narrative of the game, and then the merch and the music all becoming one beautiful journey that starts and ends, and it's time limited too. That Metallica experience in Fortnite was only live for I think 2 weeks or something, or a week. I forget exactly how long, but
I don't remember.
It was a planned user journey, and that's two really important words that I think artists need to get more familiar with. Frankly. User journey.
Or even fan journey for them.
Where does the story start? What's the story arc? And where does the story end? And that, again, doesn't have to be an industrial light and magic film production. It just has to be a very basic semblance of that kind of narrative, that trajectory in terms of the conversation with an audience. But if it's there, young adults particularly, they feel it, they gravitate toward it. And it's the whole experience economy thing that I started this little rambling rant with. It's because the music industry has gone from a transactional business model into an experiential one, but it hasn't fully graduated yet, And let's face it, no one, I'm sure, who is attending Decentraland Music Festival has the resources required to do what Fortnite did with Metallica or with any of their other artists. But you can do something that's similar in Decentraland,
Totally.
You can tell a story using the content in Decentraland. You can activate your music inside Decentraland, and I think understanding how to get from a space like Decentraland to streaming platforms like Twitch or YouTube, I think there needs to be a whole lot more education on that also. We built a platform that is similar to Decentraland actually in terms of its core functionality. It's very different in other ways too, because we built it for the purposes of live, really real-time experiences, and even looking at the artists and brands that we've worked with over the years of 5 years since we've really launched, nearly half a decade we've been going for now. Every time there's a process of education and learning and understanding that goes along the way. No one has really gotten to grips with this yet. But again, and I said I was going to start this with a bit of a sort of a dig at the industry. Once again, the music business is failing to adopt technology and adapt to the status quo. This has been a hallmark of the music business for decades. Look at the streaming revolution, Streaming media comes along. Major record labels go, nah, streaming, don't need that. Who cares? We'll be right. We'll sell records. 8 years later, almost all of them are gone.
Yeah, totally.
This is not new, people. We've been here before.
Yeah, that was a big topic on yesterday's panel, just about like the speed or lack thereof of traditional agencies, music industry companies really getting on board. Rahim, I saw you nodding along there. I'm going to let you kind of jump in throughout if you wanted to respond to Sam.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, like in history, like it's the same thing that happened with Netflix as well, with the film industry, is that they have something to protect and they're actually gatekeepers in a way, even if they see the sense in technology, they'll always try to block the pace of its growth. But as we know, with most technology, you can't stop them. And even with streaming, that's also a conversation that we're having now with Peachz, is that, okay, that was the solution for that time. But again, what's next? Streaming solved the problem of piracy and people not wanting to buy music. But then now, as you also mentioned with experiences, how do we bring this generation, like for example, my generation, we speak of the 90s, I was born in 99. I was born into pure piracy. Also where I come from, the low or a bit limited there. So how do we teach this generation the value of music the same way when it comes to digital music? So like I have a connection to an album, certain albums of artists that I like, then I'll buy the vinyl. And I started doing that even when I was younger, even before I had a vinyl player, because there was an emotional connection to that physical piece. How do we then create that same storyline that a consumer connects to a digital track or a digital album, that they're also willing to pay for it and spend a bit more so that the artist is supported against streaming? It's one, like what Sam is speaking about, where we create these experiences so that there's more emotion. And again, also moving away from these platforms or models of streaming that in a way devalue the music as a product.
Yeah, absolutely. Shelley, do you want to jump in there at all?
Yeah, I was just thinking about since we were all aging ourselves.
Sorry, I started that.
I'm on the older side than you, Rahim.
Yeah, same. I feel like coming in, like I remember life without streaming, and
totally
the opportunity now to bridge the gap between, wow, I connect directly with an artist. Like I still like the big top 40, big guys, but independent artists, the ability to celebrate that art and support them directly gives me joy, that feeds me as a human versus, oh, I pirated something for free and I put together this CD that I can, share with my friends and be cool. It's like, that's not the flex anymore. Like, how do I without giving back? The flex is like, I'm part of this community and together we are supporting this independent musician on their journey through, wherever it takes them. So I just, from the human experience, I think that that's really evolving in a beautiful way.
I love that, what you said there, Shelley. Yeah, that's the micro community thing that I was mentioning earlier, the art gallery versus the supermarket. Yeah.
Yes.
Please go on. I really believe that sort of personal relationship, that authenticity, is also part of the story that I mentioned earlier.
Absolutely, and I think that there's to that point, like even if you can't support by directly purchasing something from the musician, the UGC opportunity from platforms like Decentraland, and UGC meaning user generated content. Like if you're at a show in real life, you're absolutely taking selfies and posting that to social channels. But the same thing is happening here. And, if you can rally around a hashtag and, feed algorithms that way, there's this awesome layer that transcends whatever platform you're on. It's going to Twitter, it's going to Instagram, it's going, to all these other channels that also inherently supports the musician and the ecosystem, the virtual venue, the platform. There's just, and again, that's satisfying as a fan and as someone helping build community for artists.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rahim.
Yeah, so it's on that as well. Like I agree with the Decentraland point, and then it's also interesting. Like the algorithms, in a sense, aren't a bad thing. We do need them. We're always going to need them. Whatever platforms come, the algorithms will always be there. But I think the conversation is about like who has control? Is the control of these algorithms decentralized? Like for example, and this comes to music. So for example, on Instagram, TikTok, we can vote per se on a certain artist. We like the post, we share the post, and then that gives them engagement. And even though there's a specific Instagram algorithm, people are still involved to a certain extent. When it comes to the music platforms, they do say that we have the choice, that we play the streams, but then there's still such a heavy weight on who has leverage, who has capital, who's getting the placements based on capital, whose songs are getting played more because the major platforms are making more money from them. So we don't get to kind of vote people up as much as we should on these platforms. So I think it's also about decentralizing the algorithm per se. If there's a new release on the platform, we should be able to bump up as a community, as a fans, like, hey, we really like this artist, let's bump them up and like have kind of a decentralized user recommendation as well. That's completely detached from capital and leverage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the value the community has on the ability to engage and, like you say, bump it up. Like most of the people that got famous on TikTok did so because of their community being like, this is cool. I'm going to bump it up. I'm going to share it. I'm going to do my own version of it so that people find the original, and just that like snowball effect that really comes from that. And it usually stems from a small community start, and it just keeps rolling from there. So I think as we think about the biggest difference between, in my opinion, like your fan audience and like your fan community, is like your audience is that one-way street. They're just there and they listen, but that community is really having that engagement, that interaction. They're communicating with each other, collaborating with each other in a decentralized way that like you don't tell them what to do. This is totally going to put my music taste on the line right now, but I'm like, the way the Swifties decentralize things is crazy to me. Like she's not telling them to do anything, and they just like make different things happen. And so like having those fan bases that are saying like, this is something we like about this artist. We're going to do this storytelling. We're going to share this music. We're going to make sure people know is really interesting. And Shelley, I know as you're helping artists kind of build community as a whole, like how have you seen that get started? I feel like the hardest part is like building that initial community.
Well, the beauty of Decentraland and having this core community that exists is an awesome opportunity for artists to just tap in and, you know, engage immediately. But I find, you know, out of 1,000, more than 1,000 shows, 99.9% of them have been live in real time. When I onboard, I'm like, you're going to be there on screen doing your thing, and in world as an avatar, so that you can see what's going on and engage with these people in real time, talk to them, call out their crazy wearables, and you know, like create that connection. And more often than not, again, it's that shared experience. It's that one-on-one human connection that creates the longevity and long-term community growth that carries across other channels. As a venue manager, creating an easy, seamless operation for the fans to then connect immediately externally. We have, you know, here's their Twitter link, here's their link tree, here's, you know, whatever they're trying to promote. It's about the artist building that connection. So we make it as easy as possible for everybody to connect in that moment and after.
Makes sense. Rahim, how have you kind of seen that initial fan engagement start?
So in terms of fan engagement for our platform, I mean, we're going to close beta for start of next year. It's things that we're exploring on, like, how do we want to explore fan engagement? Do we want the closed community route, and then people buy into this closed community as the monetization wheel for the artist? But that's something that we still want to explore. But then from the research that we've done, we're sensing fatigue on both ends. So fans only have so much disposable income, and they're already fatigued from so many subscriptions already. So there's adding another layer of them now. Okay, they're gonna pay into this gated wall for this artist, and then this artist. How many artists can they do that for? And then now on the artist side, it then puts them in a further hamster wheel, and they're already on a hamster wheel. They have to do tours, they have to do DJ gigs, they have to do appearances, maybe some ambassadorships, modeling, etc., etc. They're already exhausted. Now, to keep the USP of your closed gated community going, now you have to create more content. It's like, okay, but like, how far do we want to push and even wear this artist thin? So then we're then exploring different models where we can kind of distribute the earnings for artists better on our platform by then using a gamified system. So we're looking at, like, instead of the streaming revenue from one user being spread out equally through the platform and then ratioed out based on streaming numbers, it's kind of like a game in that as you listen, your tank of subscription is kind of like wearing out based on who you listen to. So your money, your subscription money only goes to the artists that you've listened to that month, and then they get all the earnings. And I want to explore to see how then that affects the earnings dynamics for the artists, and then also introduce a credit system that encourages this buying behavior again, and then hopefully see a switch in consumer behavior to being okay to buy things again and not just be like, oh, I want to save money and have everything for $10.
That's really cool. I think one of the things that's come up this week too is just that idea of like with streaming platforms and agencies, like how does the money get to the artists in the end, and not like 2% to the artist, but more so to all of these artists that are out there making the amazing music that we all obviously are here to enjoy. And so in all of your talks with artists, like how open are they to smart contracts? I'm assuming, Shelley, yours that are coming into Decentraland are a little more familiar. Rahim, you guys probably too, but curious to hear, like, as we're talking about like music NFTs, smart contracts, splitting, like smart contracts allow us to say this percentage goes to this person immediately, this percentage goes to this person immediately. And knowing that there's that transparency that they maybe don't have versus traditional platforms. Just curious how the Web3 layer has started to come in for all of you. I'll start with Sam.
Yeah, I mean, we've really seen that manifest in terms of premium content, Kim,
Cool. Yeah.
where artists can now, really value that premium content, specifically I'm talking about things like, limited edition NFTs, avatars that you can play in game that are, sort of valuable in terms of the IP that artist uses to engage their core fans here. And by the way, I am talking now about the hardcore fans, the ones that really count. As you said earlier, Kim, how did you put it? The community rather than the audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, actually being able to sort of have, a true financial and monetary opportunity for artists to participate in, the revenues, if you will, the business, if you will, of the artist, that's incredibly powerful. And I think that's something that's really only kind of coming to the fore now. It's still got a very long way to go before that business model matures. There's a project that we're involved with where the artists who are releasing the music are actually virtual, so they're not real humans. They're avatars, 3D characters that have been designed, great deal of love and care. But then the artists themselves have been commoditized as an NFT series, where that NFT series takes 50% of the revenues that the artists produce from streaming, from merch sales, from ticket sales, and distributes that amongst the NFT holders.
So cool. Yeah.
So there's a galaxy of ways for artists to kind of get outside the unfair playing field of the traditional financial system, using financial that they have far greater control over, things like native token economies, etc. And as long as those are carefully managed, of course, they can be incredibly powerful tools to really take that kind of community engagement to the next level, because now you're no longer just consuming a piece of digital content. You're getting access to something that can have real, true potential value in the future. And that could be possibly some of the greatest community glue of all,
Yeah.
Again, I think a lot of these tools haven't really been matured yet.
Not yet. Early days.
Yeah,
I think that's so true.
From folks like us to, help spur that adoption along. We've got a feature in our platform where an artist can render sort of an avatar that looks just like them. Very limited edition service. It's not something that we offer to use thousands of NFTs, because that defeats the purpose of it being premium content. But create really, really beautiful, personalized, customized 3D avatars that represent them, that are sort of made using a photo of them in real time. And that's a really cool example of a piece of premium content, because I can now play in game as that artist, which is what we're doing really there is adopting again, to use Fortnite as an example, we're adopting the Fortnite skins model there. Only now it's a financial asset, not just a piece of content. And that's powerful in terms of that being sort of a small share of the value that the artist's creating, financially speaking, in the digital space. But again, long way to go before those systems are mature. But I think that's true to say of a lot of things in Web3. The promise and the potential there, I think, is immense.
Yeah, I think that exclusive content, Dana, I know you're on screen. If you're able to show some of the headliner wearables that were being given out too, but just that ability to say, okay, you came to something, I gave you an extra value, or like you bought my NFT, you came to my drop. Like now that we know wallets, you can airdrop anything. You could say like, I'm going to give you this exclusive jacket. I'm going to bring you a new set that's coming. You get it first to see it and hear it. And I think that ability for people to say, okay, I'm getting extra value from the things I'm doing as a community member with this artist.
I think it's also really important for independent artists and labels to be aware of the fact that this is all stuff that comes from the gaming business model. The gaming industry has been doing this for 10 years, 15 probably. It's quite a new thing in the music space, in the electronic music space. I think in other quarters of the music industry, like perhaps the alt folk world, it's not done at all. Never has been. So this is quite resonant with the wants and needs of the electronic music world. And these methodologies have worked incredibly well for community growth and engagement in the gaming space for a long, long time. And this is something else that young artists and labels really need to get to grips with, and that is that more and more there is a convergence between the gaming world, the gaming business model, and the music world. In the electronic music world, 100%. Gamers are the new premium audience demographic.
Yeah, when we were deciding,
this has been a thing for a couple of years already, so maybe I'm wrong calling it new. But if you look at record labels like Monster Cat, I mean, I think Monster Cat are probably, I don't know if anybody on the call is aware of the Monster Cat label, but we
had them on a panel earlier this week. Yeah,
that's why I mentioned them, knowing that there would probably be some awareness from the audience and folks on the call, and I know they're included in the speaker lineup for this year. I mean, they've done an incredible job of taking elements of the gaming industry model, fusing that with the music industry model, and there is something really, really valuable there, and that's something that's just going to continue growing and evolving. And I think it's a little bit like the AI thing. It's something you really need to begin to get on board with if you're an independent electronic music artist or label. It's a great growth opportunity. There's understanding how the gaming business broadly and how gaming business models can help sort of fuel the fire of community growth and discoverability broadly in the electronic music world.
Absolutely. I think when Bay, who produced this event, we were thinking of, okay, in the past, we've done stages per genre of music. And we were like, okay, if we want to do one stage, what genre has the biggest overlap with our audience and is the most global? And it was EDM, electronic, came to the forefront immediately. And so thinking about that overlap when you're saying, okay, we're thinking about discoverability. What other stuff does my fan base do? They likely game, they likely travel, they likely go out to big events. That's something we see similar in the EDM audience and something we see in gaming, metaverse, Web3. There's a very big, I'm thinking of the Venn diagrams, that middle is kind of this community. And so thinking about how those kind of all intersect, it is not surprising to me that the Web3 artists that come in are ready to really embrace gaming and some of these gaming models like wearable skins, Twitch streaming, all of that kind of feels native to who their audience and their community is. So I think thinking about both ways, totally. Absolutely, for sure. Shelley, are you kind of seeing that overlap and other things of a similar nature as you're bringing artists in? Do some of them tend to be gamers or understand that overlap?
That's funny. And it's interesting to bring up the genre correlation because some of the independent artists I've worked with, they're like, I've never, no, I don't even own a computer. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're starting there. So it's a little longer journey, but yeah, I think it's interesting to see that moment where they're like, oh, this is an opportunity to bring my music globally and create a more just a different layer to the experience. Because something I've said many times is you're never going to replace the live experience, meaning like in IRL.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to compete with that. That's a whole different world. But again, the different world. This is such a unique experience and another layer to that. And I personally cannot wait for the future where we can really blend the two, where, you know, you've got like holograms and, you know, we've played with that. Shout out to Stony Eye and MetaTiger and Pans and Buffalo, who we'll all see today. But in Southern California, we had a live event at a coffee shop. We shut the whole thing down and we were blasting. Pans and Buffalo came over from France to play IRL in this coffee shop, and we had Decentraland on the wall streaming live. So I got to dance with my human body, my meat suit, with MetaTiger in Germany on the wall, his avatar dancing.
So fun.
Like, cannot wait for more of that type of experience.
Yeah. And you know, he was like fitted to the nines. Like MetaTiger always is ready to roll. So shout out to MetaTiger for the fits always.
Absolutely.
There he is. There's MetaTiger. Shocking.
Yes. And shout out to Dana for highlighting these wearables. If you notice, she's wearing an Ash Orphan hoodie in a Stony Emote 2.0 designed by MetaTiger with the MoFi bubble. That's Stony's. So these are all wearables that have airdropped during performances at the True Band Room. Again, glue holding that community together. It's such a flex to be able to rock that MoFi bubble.
It really is.
Only 100 will ever exist.
I need to be like Dana. You've been here 2 months? How did you get the MoFi? She is the best at like scouting the marketplace, so I am not surprised at all. But I think that ability, like you said, I'm ready for that blend. And also, I'm a mom of 2, and so like I can't go to raves regularly. I would love to, but that's like not in my schedule. That's not happening. And I think we're seeing a lot of people that, for whatever reason, they're a parent. They can't afford to travel to these amazing festivals in real life. Maybe they physically can't get there due to whatever physical limitations, maybe economical limitations. And like being able to have these digital opportunities for people that are free, low cost, a different cost, is some way to still have that fan community and fan engagement and discoverability, where normally artists can only be discovered by geographically who is coming to my event. And now with online and all of these opportunities, it really expands who can find you and who can enjoy your artistry.
And the up and coming generations, the younger demographic, like I also have 2 kids, but they're adults now. But I remember my son being like, "Mom, can I please have $20? I got to buy a skin for Fortnite." And I was like, "What? No, get a job."
Absolutely not.
No. You know, fast forward, I've got like 10K in digital
I would
wearables.
say your wearable collection is like, pretty sweet.
I get it now. Like your representation in a game in a different environment is very important, and I should have given him the $20 back then.
The job also helped. Don't worry. I know we are at 5 minutes. I want to go around the horn. I'll start with you, Rahim. Like anything else you want to end with in terms of discoverability and really that advice for artists today that are really trying to get out there?
I think, especially if we stick to the electronic music genre, I think electronic musicians have always been quite naughty in terms of like finding, use that word, that's what came to mind, in discoverability, you know, going on whatever obscure website there is, promoting on blogs. When SoundCloud came, being a bit like more kind of breaking IP rules, etc., just to get that discoverability. So as you said, like most artists are staying open to experiences just like Decentraland when it comes to electronic music. So I think just staying open to whatever comes and just giving it a try. It's not really going to hurt you. And if you're able to then reach people that you usually wouldn't be able to reach, if one, because of limitations, part of your career you can't do the big gigs, big parties, then try something like Decentraland out. Also, with electronic music genres, we usually find that it usually takes off away from your demographic, you know, like house, techno, starting in Detroit, Chicago, and then finding its feet in Europe, for example. Amapiano, or some of the Ugandan electronic genres as well. Starting there as well, but then taking also a flight in another geographical location. So there is definitely power in these immersive and digital experiences that you wouldn't have if you were limited to your geographic location.
Definitely. Thank you, Shelley.
Yeah, I will just echo again the collaboration over competition when it comes to artists, you know, work with each other. You can tap into your own audiences and overlap. Venues, pulling from the Twitch playbook, you know, the raids. Like if you're in a world where it's where there's an existing community, work with that. Create experiences that piggyback off of others and create that community experience, field tripping around. I mean, the Decentraland community is fantastic at this. So shout out to everybody here and facilitating that beautiful collaborative environment where it's just so much more effective. The vibes are better. And so, yeah, collaborate.
Absolutely. Sam?
If I have 3 words to give to independent artists and labels as to what can help them to separate themselves from the pack, as it were, and that is embrace new technology. There are a host of different technologies. Thank you. Just like Decentraland, you know, that are horribly underused. These are incredibly powerful tools you can use to make beautiful content. You create stunning, authentic experiences that go far beyond things like social media. There is a plethora of different tools out there that are underused by so many artists and labels. And this is really a way for indie artists and labels to stand out from the crowd, to separate themselves from the mass of competition, and to do things in a way that really kind of plays into the need for the experience economy to be addressed, you know? So so the storytelling that I mentioned earlier really is the heart of what you do, whether that's in a small way or a big way.
Awesome. Well, thank you to the amazing panelists. Be sure to follow them. We have Rahim over at Peachz, Shelley Van over at Songbird Collective, and Sam over at RealityJam. They all have booths in Decentraland that Dana had showed you earlier today. So make sure you jump in. All their links are in there. There's some video content, so check that out. We are about to kick off in 54 seconds, the next performances. So this day was totally curated by Shelley Van and the Songbird team. So we have, nice job, Shelley. Yeah, we have David, Gecko, Pans, DJ Lag, Nightmare, Buffalo, a huge, amazing lineup. If you could catch them, they start in a few seconds, and then they will all replay this whole day again at 3 a.m. UTC. So if you miss it, you're in a different time zone, make sure you jump back in. I've just been enjoying them both twice every day. Highly recommend, because it's different people in there. So it's, again, a different experience. So thank you all for joining. Download Decentraland, and we will see you at the set starting in 10 seconds. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much,
Thank
guys.
you. This is awesome.